Hey everyone, it's Jonathan, and welcome back to every version ever of Alice in Wonderland. Today we've got an episode that I've wanted to do for years. I saw a trailer for the Royal Ballet's Alice in Wonderland several years ago. It was actually probably so long ago that it was before I'd even transitioned to podcasting, and it just looks so unique. I knew I had to see this one. But somehow, I still hadn't gotten to it until now. Today I'm joined by Jenna, aka Phantomwise, and we'd talked about doing this one for ages, so I decided we need to actually finally make time for it. I've been doing so much Disney Alice content recently, and there's still more to come, but I decided we needed to take a break from Disney and finally watch the Royal Ballet's Alice in Wonderland, and it was totally worth the wait. So this turned out to maybe be one of my new favorites.
I knew it would be. You finally got to do
It was
it.
so good.
I'm glad to hear that. Now, are you normally into ballets?
I don't I don't watch a lot of ballets. I've liked what
Mm,
I've seen. My grandpa was a big fan of like ballets and operas, so I'd watch some things that if he had them going, but it was never something that I really sought out for myself. I've watched some for different podcasts, but just because it was like a version of something that I was talking about. So I've liked all the ones that I've seen. So
mm.
I guess I do like ballet. I guess
Oh, that's good.
not enough to like make it a new thing, like, oh, I must go to the ballet. But
Yeah,
like just watching it, it's fun.
you're a casual liker. I have some ballet background. But what I always found interesting about this version was when I used to do streams and people would watch it. And there's always people are like, "Oh, I'm not looking forward to this version. It's ballet, but like I don't like ballet." And then they're watching it and it's just like, "Oh my God, it's great."
It was really creative.
Yeah, it is. I really enjoy the unique take they do with it, and it's still a pretty faithful Alice, to be honest. Like compared to other versions,
Hmm.
most of the stuff stays the same. So what did you think of the design aspects of it?
I thought it looked really cool. I loved a lot of the choices, especially like the way they did the sets. Like they were kind of like half practical physical sets and half projections on the wall,
Yeah,
but they blended it so well that it just looked so good.
I enjoy that the designs kind of have a book feel to them. I
Hmm.
did remember when I first watched it, I thought it was a little bit weird, allusions to the pages and letters. I thought that was a tiny bit odd, but then it really makes more sense at the ending. Just spoiling it right away, I guess. Modern day Alice is reading a book and she fell asleep while reading it. And it's like, oh, that's why it looks so bookish. And I think it's really clever in a way to have that throughout the design of the production.
I felt it was a bit confusing that they had like two different real worlds. I suppose it's supposed to be a dream within a dream then, if the ending is the true world.
Well, the way I always saw it is that the prologue in Oxford is meant to be like the foreword in a book.
I suppose, but all the stuff at the beginning was not from the book.
Well, that's what I mean. It's a foreword. You ever read like a novel and then there'll be like a some other writer who's written a foreword in front of it. Sometimes it's a guest writer, but in a lot of these classic novel cases, it's just somebody who the publisher asks to write. And my like this foreword probably explained about Oxford and Lewis Carroll and the Little Sisters.
Okay.
But anyway, that's how I interpret it anyway, because I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah, it probably does. If you're thinking of it as in something that like someone was describing a scenario that could have been
Mhm.
with the real world people behind the story, that does make sense.
Well, no, I think I'm not saying the forward is like somebody pretended this Oxford scenario. I'm saying like it gives facts.
Hmm.
And then modern day Alice fell asleep while reading the book. And in her dream state, she kind of created her own
Oh,
story.
okay.
And she's in love with her boyfriend, so she inserts him too, you know?
Okay,
um,
that makes more
yeah,
sense then with the
yeah,
boyfriend. Yeah.
yeah, which really big difference with this version is we have a romantic lead in Jack,
Hmm.
which some people aren't too crazy about. I don't really care.
It was fine.
Yeah, I think a lot of ballets, a romantic lead is traditional. So I get why they wanted to add one. And I'm also kind of like, if they didn't have a romantic lead, then that would kind of fall on Alice and the Lewis Carroll slash White Rabbit character. And I'd want to
Hmm.
avoid that.
Hmm.
So I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I will say they have the long dance sequences. That long dance sequence at the ending is really boring for me. I mean, with the trial.
There were a few
Yeah,
long dance sequences that they did feel like they overstayed their welcome a bit, but they weren't like
yeah.
excruciating or anything.
Yeah, there's only I would say a few moments where I say I get kind of bored of the ballet. So that would be the trial sequence when Alice and Jack are, like basically we love each other. Um, but it's like way too long. I also don't care for the long sequence before the caterpillar scene where Alice is by herself or there's like
That was
questions
the
in the
one
background.
that I was specifically thinking of.
It was way too long.
That was probably the longest one,
Yeah.
or at
I
least
don't
the one that felt the longest because she was
yeah.
alone.
I don't know this. Maybe people who are more into ballet would be like, no, it has to happen because it's like an emotional crux of the story or something. And I don't know, just from a bystander, it is pretty boring to me.
Hmm.
If they wanted to cut for time, that would be it right there.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think those are the main parts that I would say like I really don't care for that much.
Hmm.
Other than that, I love most of the other moments. Oh, I will say, which I didn't recommend this for you to watch this one because I was like potentially 4 hours to watch would be quite a lot. But the 2013 version does make 2013 recording of this makes a few differences. One of which is when Jack gives Alice the red rose in the prologue, Alice keeps it and she wears it throughout the ballet on like her hip and she'll touch it like there's more big deal about the rose between Jack and Rose because I sorry Jack and Alice because get apparently people watching the ballet did not get the ceiling to tarts connects Jack to the knave of hearts and they didn't recognize him but to me that's kind of weird but I guess on a stage maybe you don't see the facial features.
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, so they kind of like, oh, connect Jack to this rose that he's given Alice later to the knave. It's like, okay, fine, whatever works for you guys. And but the really confusingly, they add this sequence, and they actually end up making it 3 acts because the sequence makes it longer, where Jack is running from like guards, and he actually has like the tarts with him. I think they did this because some people weren't catching, like they weren't understanding that he was on trial for stealing tarts, so they really wanted to hammer home that he had tarts. But I kind of feel like I don't know. I feel like this scene's really unnecessary. There's also like a portion of it where the White Rabbit's trying to get Alice away from the knave, and I'm like, this could be interpreted as a weird love triangle kind of thing, and I don't like it. Also, a weird sequence because it takes place outside the Duchess's house. So like you get like this really long pause between the Duchess and the cat, and it's where they're doing this weird, not good sequence. And and like to be honest, it's not good. And at some point, the queen comes in and she wants to see her charts. So the Duchess's servants have like trays, and the rabbit like switches it around. So instead of the tarts, it's the sausages. It's a really stupid sequence. If they take it out, I'd be happy. That's like the worst thing in this whole ballet by far. And that's usually why I recommend the 2011 recording because I think it's better without it.
Hmm.
But anyway, if you ever did want to watch that version, that too, I could show it to you, but I really, you're not missing anything. Sorry, I'm rambling. You have anything else you want to talk about?
Well, the main thing about the beginning that I wanted to talk about was that at least looking over the cast, because they opened with a shot of the orchestra, which I liked. It kind of gave me
Mm,
some Fantasia vibes.
mm,
And then you get an intro of the cast, and I didn't recognize anybody until I started going to IMDb and I recognized one person.
mm-hmm. I know who it is.
The Duchess,
Yes,
played by
Simon
Simon
Russell
Russell
Beale.
Beale, who
Yeah.
also played the King of Hearts in my favorite version of
Yes.
Alice, the 99 Hallmark version.
Yes, in which he is fabulous in that version as well.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, isn't he great as the Duchess?
It's,
Um,
like borderline terrifying. Although I don't know how much that was him and how much that was the changes they made to the character.
Oh, it was him. He was very involved with. Oh, okay. I don't think so. I guess we're gonna talk about the Duchess's pot house. Um, that was a design choice, but like, yeah, he had a big role in creating the Duchess
Okay.
for them. He was very involved. Yeah, so he's fantastic in this. And unfortunately, later recordings, he only did this for a stint. Like he created the Duchess role with him, but he's an actor like for film usually.
Yeah. That's why he's the only one I recognize. The rest were pretty
Yeah,
much all ballet dancers.
yeah. I don't know. Actually, I don't remember why he even did this, but yeah. So he was only there briefly, and now it's played by somebody else who I forget their name. But I don't like the later Duchesses. They just don't have the same body language, like the same acting.
Hmm.
It's funny, like Simon never talks, but it's all his body language is exquisite. It's great acting.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I guess as long as we're here talking about any cast, did you feel anything else about the other cast members?
I think my favorite character was the cook. I don't remember who played her, but there was just something about her.
I wrote it down. Kristen McNally.
There was just something about that character that I just kind of loved. She was
She's
like
pretty unhinged.
crazy.
Yeah, the way she plays the character she's unhinged, but also like a cutie. When Alice
That's a
saves
good way
her,
to describe her.
yeah, when Alice saves her from like being choked by sausages, and she gives Alice a peppermill, like pepper the soups with me, and then of course her romance with the executioner later.
Yes, which I didn't
Yeah.
catch at first. I was
Oh,
watching
you
this with
did?
Sarah, and there's like at the point where it's shown on screen, there's like so much going on. I think I was
Yeah,
looking
that's
at a
true.
different part of the screen, and Sarah was like, "Is something going on with the cook and the executioner?"
Bonding over a love of sharp instruments, as you
Yes.
do. But yeah, so it's the cooks is fun, especially a lot of Alice adaptations. You don't really talk about the cook usually. You
Hmm.
just kind of like glance over her because it's more, like you more think about the Duchess.
Hmm.
I can't even like really think of another cook I like. I guess I like the one in the 1999 version.
That's the only one that really pops into my head right now.
Yeah, because and she's kind of cute too now that I think about it. But yeah, it's this is probably one of the best cooks in
Hmm.
Alice history. And then I love Lauren Cuthbertson, Alice. The way she's able to act. I mean, she's a ballerina, like a prima ballerina,
Hmm.
and she has such beautiful body language. Like she's a character
Hmm.
actress, I suppose. She acts while she's dancing too.
Hmm.
It's so good, and I think it makes the Hall of Doors sequence, especially like if she didn't
Hmm.
have
Yes.
this acting ability, it would just be a pretty girl doing things, dancing. But because the way she's acting while she's dancing, and obviously a big part of it is the choreography, but like I don't know, just the way she like her face reacts when she's throwing, like what's going on,
Hmm.
or shrinking when she's crying in the Hall of Doors. It's just beautiful acting, and I love it.
Hmm. I think that was probably the most impressive scene to me, the Hall of Doors.
Oh
Just
yeah, it's very
the way that
impressive.
they did it, like the combination of bits of actual set and like the projections to make it look like she's grown and now she has to fit into this little box. And then the door too, when she's like trying to fit through the door, but the door is like on wheels and it has gone out to face the audience. So she's looking out into the audience.
It's so clever.
And then the garden is portrayed by the flowers going up and down the aisles of the actual audience.
Yeah, it's so clever and so much fun. It involves the audience too in a way.
Yes, yeah.
You know,
I love stuff like that.
yeah. I love it too. Just it's brilliant staging. And yeah, the Hall Door sequence, I remember that's one of the my favorite sequences to rewatch in general. And
Hmm.
especially if you're with an audience because I've seen this a few times with in live in cinemas. So essentially, once in a while, they haven't done it in a while because the Royal Ballet hasn't done this in a few years. But they'll do a live screening where you can go to a local cinema and watch it live. Though if you're in America, it is on a delay. Mine was quite a few hours delay because I'm on the West Coast. But if you're in the UK or I think like the local like European areas, it's live. But anyway, whenever I would go to these screenings and not much of an audience, but there'd be some people there and they hadn't seen it before, some of them will actually be like, wow, during that sequence. And it's one of my favorite moments actually when I get to be with the audience to watch this is
Hmm.
the little wow factors. So I hear the wow when she shrinks and she's under the door. It's, whoa, the wow in the hall door when she's big in the hall door. It's like, whoa. And the Cheshire Cat
Oh
also has
yeah, I
the
loved how
Cheshire
they did the
Cat.
Cheshire Cat.
Yeah, the Cheshire Cat will get like a muttering. Actually, like people are like, what? I love it. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's also why I don't recommend the 2013 recording for people who are watching it for the first time, because they will actually spoil some of the wow factors of the ballet in the beginning few moments, like with rehearsal footage. And I'm like, why would you do this? It's meant to be live. Why would you
Hmm.
spoil it? It really upsets me. But anyway, sorry, I think I jumped ahead there too because I was thinking about any if there's anybody else we want to mention for the cast.
Um, this is not really cast, but I like that Alice was part puppet, at least when she went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's live puppetry too.
Yeah, I
Um,
thought that was really cool. I kind of wanted more puppetry. There was a little bit, but like not the Alice puppet, which I wanted more of that, but oh well, I liked what we got.
I think we got quite a bit of puppetry with like the Cheshire Cat
Well, I mean,
both
of
times he
Alice,
appears.
like I
Yeah.
kind of expected the puppet to come back when the dream ended, but that didn't happen.
Uh,
But I thought it was very clever to use the puppet for her going down the rabbit hole.
I think I would almost kind of prefer, when she goes into the full tears and I would in its projection, I would kind of prefer if that was the puppet.
Oh, that would have been a good idea too.
Yeah, but I think size issue probably would be a problem because the puppet looks so small.
Hmm.
Because I was thinking that like, oh, that would be neat. But then the way it works is Alice goes into quote unquote full, and the projection takes over. It's like, oh, a puppet's so much smaller than the human size Alice. It probably wouldn't work as well.
Hmm.
Oh, you also get some puppetry with the pig baby as well.
Yes, I liked that they had each person who held the baby do the puppetry.
Yeah. The some people are better at it than others. I imagine it's hard to dance while,
Yeah,
puppeteering.
yeah,
Oh, the flamingos also.
yes.
Um, Again, some people were better than others. Uh, but I thought it was fun the way that they start off as dancers. So you still get to do like some fun choreography
Hmm.
as with the flamingos, and then they turn into the puppets.
Yeah, they kind of went back and forth because the dancers were there later too. They did the same
Yeah,
thing with the hedgehogs because there was kids in hedgehog costumes, which I didn't realize they were kids at first. And then halfway through the scene, I was like, "Wait a minute, those are kids." They were pretty cute.
yeah. It essentially switches back and forth between like when they need them to be puppets or
Yeah.
people, and it's really not quite as disorienting as you would assume it would be.
Hmm.
Um, for other cast members, I like Zenaida. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Zenaida, the Queen of Hearts. She's fantastic. She's
Yes.
also really, really good at acting while dancing.
Hmm.
And she's a great. They're all great dancers, but she's like really a really great dancer.
Hmm.
And just I love her facial expressions, and she's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she really was.
It Probably Edward Watson is my favorite Lewis Carroll out of all the Lewis Carroll White Rabbits I've seen. It's kind of like there's a later one I really really like. I forget his name. Who does a great White Rabbit, but it doesn't very mesh very well with his Lewis Carroll. Edward Watson is probably like the best one to like mesh the two in a way that makes sense, which is ironic because Lewis Carroll probably wouldn't. He probably would not want to be the White Rabbit, but It is what it is. I guess that kind of leads into what do you think of the kind of quote unquote Oz casting, like the double casting?
It was interesting. I mean, we've seen it before. The main one I'm
Yeah,
thinking of is the 99 version, which I did. It took me a second to realize that's what they were doing, but then when the person who would become the caterpillar came, I was like, wait a minute, that's what they're doing. So then I was going through and trying to guess who each person was going to be.
yeah, that's fun.
The only ones that I got wrong, I think, were probably, I think they turned out to be the Dormouse and the March Hare, and I thought they were going to be the Griffin and Mock Turtle, and there were no Griffin and Mock Turtle.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. What were they? They were the vicar and the verger. I don't know what that is, but religious people, I guess. It's like it's kind of weird because they're definitely with each other, but then the Mad Hatter is the magician and he's separated from them, and they should all be together somehow. It is a bit odd.
Hmm.
Maybe they should have made him like his followers or something, his entourage. I do think the casting of the King and Queen of Hearts as Alice's parents as well, the littles, is very interesting. And maybe it's not flattering to the real historical persons, but it makes sense from like a storytelling perspective.
Hmm. I thought it was kind of weird, but with your explanation of what this might mean instead of like trying to be the actual real world, then
Yeah,
it makes sense. It's fine.
yeah. Modern day Alice is essentially just kind of putting her own story to it,
Yeah.
which is what people already do, to be honest. People already,
Yeah.
have their own theories and conclusions about real life people and
Hmm.
assume stories. So it's not, the worst thing ever. I guess going into a bit more of the prologue. So there's a lot there that is very interesting, which you may have known or not known. So like the backdrop, for instance, is actually one of Lewis Carroll's photographs, but like enhanced.
Hmm.
So it's one of his photographs with the little sisters in the Deanery Garden. So it is actually the Deanery Garden, like the real life one, in Oxford, Christchurch.
Hmm.
However, they flipped it over and like they reversed the image, which is odd because they also add two icons in the background to kind of like solidify it as Oxford as Christchurch. So they put in the chapel from the cathedral to the left side of the stage, and they put in Tom Tower, which is like at the entrance of Christchurch, to the right on the right side. And while it's not inaccurate. The way they flipped it, it actually makes it the orientation completely weird because like the door where they put the door in real life, that's a wall, and on the other side is supposed to be the door. I don't know. I'm not sure why they did that. If they're going to use a real photograph, but it is attention to detail, which is quite nice, I guess.
More detail than I knew about. Like
Yeah,
I knew the location where they were, but I didn't realize it was one of his photographs.
yeah, like that's fun. That is one of his photographs.
Hmm.
I just think it's kind of odd to flip it. I mean, maybe there's a stage reason, but I wouldn't know what the stage reason would be. But like nobody's really gonna know besides nerds. So, you know,
Probably.
yeah. It just kind of would have been cooler if they left it be. But, there's an attempt. That's kind of nice. Though even the way they have it set up, like the garden door would have been on the other side. So I don't, whatever. Um, other details. Right away we start at a photography session with Lewis Carroll or Mr. Dodson and the Little Sisters, and so Alice is a fairy and her sisters are in Chinese dress and pirate. I like to call the blue one Lorena and the pink one Edith, but I don't think they officially have designations. They could be either, but just for simplicity's sake, that's what I'll prefer to them too, because it makes more sense to me. Anyway, so the Chinese dress one is like the only, like you would have sitter set in costumes, but the Chinese dress is the only accurate one. Usually, a lot of his costumes were more like cultural costumes, or maybe like he's had a princess or a Cupid. He's never had a pirate ever, or a fairy. I think they just wanted to put Alice in a sparkly dress. But they are kind of setting Carol to be kind of an Uncle Drosselmeyer figure in this, like a little Nutcracker, just a kind of magic uncle,
I
you
didn't even
know.
think about that.
Yeah. At some point, he has Alice sign the album page, which is something he would have his Lewis Carroll would have his sitters do that. A really interesting one is the portmanteau. So at some point, he takes a photograph, and I forgot to mention it's really cool that the backdrop becomes the photographic negative when he does that. Very cool. And then he opens up the portmanteau to be the rabbit hole. So it's a reference to, if you remember in Through the Looking Glass, the Humpty Dumpty talks about portmanteau words. And he also has a letter to a little girl where he makes a joke about the little girl's helping him to, she helped him to pack. And she did so well that she packed him inside as well. And I don't know, I thought it was really funny that they did a reference to that. Yeah, and so those are, I would say, like the little biographical tidbits in this that are really fun.
Yeah, and most of them I wouldn't have even known about. So
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but the sisters are also double casted as well. They reappear as the animals in the caucus race.
I wondered about that because I know
Yeah.
that some of them were named after the sisters, but I didn't know if they were who was who.
Yeah. So Lori is the oh no, that's probably how I could tell. Now I'm like, wait, I need to look up a picture of them. So I'm like, that's how I could tell. I never thought of it before because one of them's in a gray dress and the other one is in a green one.
Okay. Then I was thinking back who it might be, and those are the two that came to mind first. So I bet it, yeah.
Yeah, Royal Ballet, Alice, Caucus Race. I can't find a good picture, so I guess I'm just going to say the green one would be Lorena, and the gray one would be the eaglet, Edith.
Okay.
So that's some fun attention to detail.
Yeah.
I don't know why it took me so long to realize that. Literal years. Um, I think I'm right. I think the one that was in pink is the eaglet. But oh well, watch me be wrong. Um, do feel a little bad for Mrs. Little in this. She doesn't look that great. But at the same time, like she is stopping a romance between one of her daughters and a low class servant boy. She'd probably be like, yeah, I would. Anyway, so then we go into Wonderland, and we did talk about Rabbit Hole a little bit.
Hmm.
The projections are very nice.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's not my favorite rabbit hole. I get why they did it that way, though.
Yeah, I liked what they did. It's not as creative as other versions, but they were limited by the stage. And I thought with what they had to go with, they did a great job. I liked the puppet.
Now I'm kind of curious to look at different stage versions and see how they handled the rabbit hole. But yeah, like this one, it's fine for a stage version, I think.
Yeah,
Um, and it's nice that they introduced puppet, live puppet, and not just like a projection.
yeah.
They could have done that. They could have just made Alice like a silhouette projection or something.
Hmm.
And then we talked about the hall doors. I do think it's kind of odd. It's kind of funny, at least, that she has that moment in the hall of doors where all the Wonderland characters come out and then go back in. And it's like, what was that for? Just to taunt us? Like, I think the reason I didn't want to bring that up. I think the reason they did that was because they wanted the audience to make the connection, like to give Alice motivation into why she wants to go through the garden, because she recognizes the Knave of Hearts as Jack. They do have this moment like holding hands, like dance, together when that's happening. And in the 2013 and later versions, that's when she gets the rose from him in Wonderland to really drive home the fact that this is Jack. So this is the reason why she wants to go into the garden.
Hmm.
So it's like, it's not faithful to the book, but I could see why they did it, especially since I feel like audiences nowadays just like getting into the garden isn't a good enough motivation anymore. We need a reason. Like,
I also thought it was clever the way they did the transition to the Sea of Tears because there's not really a good way you could pull that off on stage. And I thought that the way that they ended up doing it was about as good as you could do, having her go behind a curtain and replace it with a silhouette. I do like your idea of a puppet, but I think this worked fine.
yeah, I think it worked fine. And in a weird way, it really works with the abstract design.
Yeah.
of the overall production. Like if this was a super faithful to Tenniel Illustrations production, I think it wouldn't have worked as well.
Hmm.
But because it is abstract and she's kind of having an abstract dream, it works way better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree.
And then I liked the illustrated waves after the projection pulls up.
Oh, I love the waves. I love the whole pool of tears and caucus race sequence in general.
Yes, me too. I love the cardinal with a gun.
Uh,
I was like, this is the only version of Alice I've seen where Alice wields a firearm.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, it's a racing fire. It's just a
Yes.
tiny little thing, but yeah.
I half expected when she shot it up into the air to have a bird fall out of the rafters or something.
Oh no, Murderer Alice. Um, but anyway, I do think so the Pool of Tears, it's a lot of fun with like the different waves and it kind of makes you think of like an old theater production, I suppose, huh? Like they would have
Yeah,
different wave, I don't know what to call it, boards or something.
yeah.
Um,
I don't remember exactly what it looked like, but that scene reminded me of whatever the one from PBS was where Alice smoked.
oh, the
You know which one I'm
1983
talking
great
about?
performances. Yeah.
Yeah. Because all of that was like illustrated with a stylized pencil and ink illustration
Mm,
look. That's what the waves reminded me of.
yeah.
I don't remember how that version did the Sea of Tears. It's been a long time since I watched that one, but just the vibe.
They just had some weird digital effects of it.
Okay.
It didn't look very good or realistic, but they didn't mean it to, so
Hmm.
it's whatever. But this one, I really like it. I also like how they have the drinking bottle floating in the background. It's a needed detail, but it's pretty cute. To be honest, I kind of wonder if it's kind of a nod to the Disney version because there's no other Alice version that does that, that has the drinking bottle floating around in the Pool of Tears.
It could be.
Or maybe not. They just thought it'd be like good, motion on stage or something, kinetic energy. Who knows?
Hmm.
Oh, I love how at the end of the caucus race that the animals like actually quote unquote speak and make animal noises. You don't usually see that in ballet.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think the carcass race might have been one of my favorite dance sequences. Just the way they incorporated the race into the dance and the running on stage as part of the dance. I thought they did that really well.
Oh, the dancing is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And the way they also do like the turtle or tortoise, I guess, the tortoise wins by accident is fun. And this like the slow-mo portion, it's just fun. It's a
Yeah.
fun sequence. I can't think of another fun caucus race. Um, Not even the Disney one is as fun, so props to them.
Hmm. After the animals leave, the white rabbit shows up to take her away in a paper boat.
Oh yeah, they have that gorgeous boat sequence with projections.
Yeah, it looked really
Yeah.
good, but at that point, Sarah and I were like, I guess they're skipping the Marianne scene. There was no shrinking and growing in the rabbit's house.
Yeah, I think in a stage production, there's only so much shrinking and growing you could do before the audience is kind of bored with it.
Oh, I wouldn't have been bored. I would have thought it would look cool. I'm sure they could have done something interesting.
I don't know. I think they kind of already did it with the Hall of Doors. Like, I don't know.
Probably.
I'm shrunk and grown out. It's fine. Um, Actually, I'm trying to think of a version on stage that has done it. Like the only one that's coming to mind is Alice at the Palace, but that was a film version specifically that they did that. So they just cut to her in a house instead of like actually showing her grow.
I'm not sure I've seen that one yet.
Well, that's your next homework, Alice at the Palace. I don't know if you'll like it necessarily, but I think you'll find it interesting. But yeah, I can't think of another stage version that does Alice in the House. Now viewers will correct me and be like, such and such version did it. No. Anyway, I don't know. Like, probably if they hadn't already done it for the Hall of Doors, like the box would be a good way of doing the house on stage.
Hmm.
But because they already did use it for the Hall of Doors, I think it would have been much of the same.
Probably. That is probably why they skipped it.
Yeah. I feel especially, I don't know, like I think it's different with film versions because you have more control over what you're doing, showing and doing, and the aesthetics of it and the different effects. But I
Hmm.
feel like at least in this like stage productions, they tend to want at least I think in this scene, it seems like they kind of want a wow factor for like every sequence. And yeah, I it'd be hard to have it give it some wow factor. But yeah, I do think the White Rabbit's dance with Alice is meant to replace the White Rabbit's house. I don't know how familiar you are with mime, by the way, ballet mime.
I mean, I've seen a little bit, but I haven't like actually gone out to watch mime shows.
No, ballet mime. So in ballet shows, they will actually mime as a way to for the characters to speak.
Okay.
Yeah,
Then no, I'm not familiar because I didn't know there was a specific kind for ballet.
yeah. A lot of productions do like don't do it, but a lot of them do. I remember when I was in ballet, my production my studio would do it sometimes, but not very often. Because to be honest, a lot of audiences don't know it anymore. From what I understand, the Royal Ballet is very they use it quite a lot still, and there's a lot of ballet mime in Alice actually. I don't know all of it. At some point, I was meaning to go through the whole production and like actually try to translate the mimes, but I didn't do that. But like in the hall door sequence, Alice mimes like reading a book and then growing small, and
Hmm.
meant to be the line in the book like if only there were a book about shutting people up like telescopes, you know.
Mm,
Oh, I think it's a little bit. It might be the later rabbit dance, right? Because he sees her again. When did they see each other again? Is it before the cat?
I think he takes her to the Mad Tea Party.
Yeah, you're right. So I'm sorry, I'm skipping ahead, but I already brought it up. So, but anyway, he does this mime essentially that means over there, the queen. So when he gestures to his forehead in 3 points, that means like royalty.
Okay.
The queen will cut off my head. So it's fun that they use mime. And one later, when the King of Hearts sees the Queen of Hearts, before the croquet, he mimes that she's beautiful by like doing a gesture around his face, and she grimaces like that smile grimace, like yeah, like I'm ugly, you know. Um, and after that, he does the mime for like dance, and that's when the tart adagio begins. So it's something to watch out for if you watch this. Alice is the miming.
I did notice the bits you're talking about, but I didn't think
Yeah,
of them as anything. Like I didn't decipher them as much as you did. Like I figured out he was talking about the queen because he did the throat cutting gesture,
yeah.
but I didn't pick up much beyond that.
I had some leftover like really rudimentary ballet mime education. So I knew the Let's Dance one and the beautiful one. But anyway, moving on. In the sequence we're actually at, and I'm not skipping ahead. Um, I think it's cute. Like, so the movements Alice is doing in like the dancing are the same steps she performed with Lewis Carroll in the prologue. So she's like, "I recognize you," but he doesn't have time to do that. He doesn't have time to play. He's got to be a grumpy rabbit, you know. So anyway, I think it's a cute sequence. The boat is made out of real pages of Alice, so that's fun.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't look close enough to figure that out.
Yeah, at some point I actually even like actually found the passages in the book that were on the boat
Hmm.
because I'm a nerd. But one of the passages is the passage about sending messages for a rabbit from the rabbit sends in a little bill chapter.
Hmm.
And I thought that was really fun because she's like kind of being sent on a message in a way with the boat. Um, anyway, so I guess the next sequence is the Duchess.
I liked how they did the fish and the frog with the big eyes inside the powdered wigs.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun too. It's just the jumps and
Yeah,
the way the fish waddles to represent like the fishtail. And there's this one moment where Alice like mimics the fish walking, and it's cute.
yeah, they were done really well.
I like the home sweet home kind of embroidered kit in the background as well as the backdrop. It looks so innocent.
Thinking back on it now, the outside did not prepare you for what was to come on the inside.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because it's kind of a message about like the fronts people put on.
I
Um,
yeah, I
yeah,
could see that.
yeah. Because actually, the Duchess is in the prologue too, but as herself, essentially, she's the Duchess there as well. She's credited as Duchess, just Duchess. Everybody else is double casted, and I mean like everyone.
Hmm.
Like, did you realize the butler is also the executioner? Um,
No, I did not.
yeah, exactly. I didn't either until like writing this cast list down. I was like, oh, I actually never made the connection that he was the butler was the executioner. And of course, all the servants are the ensemble, so they also show up again.
Hmm.
But the Duchess is the only one who only plays the Duchess. Like she's the Duchess in the beginning and the Duchess in the Wonderland portion. So I think it's very interesting that for some reason, at modern day Alice has chosen like this character to kind of represent like the fronts people put on, and like behind closed doors, they're not good people, or they could be scary. It's interesting.
Well, even quote unquote real Duchess was still mean to her baby. Like she was whacking inside
Exactly.
the pram.
Yeah. Just like behind closed doors or behind an embroidery sample, she is not great.
She's like borderline psychotically evil.
Embroidery, borderline, psychotic.
Like thinking back, like it was shocking watching, I think it was the 1931 one with the Duchess and the axe. I was like, this is like the darkest Duchess I've ever seen. But she can't hold a candle to this one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird though, actually, when I think American McGee has desensitized me because I was just kind of like, yeah, this is okay. This is fine.
I've never played that, so I can't compare to that one.
Yeah, I've never played it either. I've only really watched Let's Plays of it, but it's not just the Duchess in that one. The whole game's dark, so it's just kind of this feels like American McGee inspired.
Hmm.
Like, I guess if they want to do that, whatever.
I wonder what gave them the idea to do this with the Duchess. And I suppose if anyone's listening who has not seen it, the Duchess's house is basically a butcher shop. And not like a sterile butcher shop. This is like if an inspector came, they would be shut down immediately.
Inside like a soup pot thing, it's kind of fascinating. Actually, thinking about it, all the sets are like seem to be like Alice's miniaturized. Like for instance, you have the paper boat, you have the Duchess's house, which is inside of the soup pot. You have the embroidery on the front of that, and then later you have like the puppet theater stage, big pot like teapot and a dessert, stuff like that. So she essentially spends the whole time mini.
I didn't really think of it in that way, but that does make sense. The
Yeah,
teapot I was kind of thinking of as, oh, they've got a big teapot so they can do the stuffing the dormouse into the teapot scene.
yeah. But everything's big in that scene, and everything is
Yeah,
big
you're right.
later. Yeah. No, this one, the Duchess's house. So they're in like a big soup pot thing, but everything they're touching and dealing with is like to their size and seems regular size.
Hmm.
They're like, even if they're mini, they don't. That just seems to be how Wonderlandians live. They're mini, which is kind of interesting because the queen does rule them, and she's the size of a playing card.
Yeah.
All right, I just thought that was kind of interesting because it's like the only Alice I can really think of where she's the whole story is done when she's small,
Yeah.
and they seem to reflect that with the sets.
I didn't really think of it, but you are right.
Yeah, trying to think if there's anything else with the Duchess. Might as well mention there's the meat grinder.
With an actual full pig being turned
Yeah,
into sausages,
yeah,
not like cuts of meat. They've stuffed an entire pig into a meat grinder.
yeah. The Duchess has a knife, a butcher knife,
She's
which
got blood all over her front.
yeah, well, she's got blood all over her skirt too, actually, all the way around. The Duchess has, yeah, like a blood apron. It's very interesting. Gotta get a little trauma in there.
It's like, are they saying that she keeps having children to turn them into sausage? Because they do the baby turning into a pig, but then she snatches the pig back before it can escape. So is this baby going to be turned into sausage too?
Probably. I feel like it's kind of a metaphor for like abusive families, but it's kind of odd because it sticks out. I can't really think anything else is a metaphor.
I think somebody just had this idea of turning the Duchess into a crazed butcher shop lady
Yeah.
and just ran with it.
Yeah, it seems to be. So to be honest, this is the only part of the ballet that is really sticks out. It doesn't really fit in with the rest of it in like terms of
No,
tone.
no.
Yeah.
And because, like, up until this point, I was thinking to myself, this would be fun to watch with my nephews. And then this happened. I was like, nope.
I'd still watch it with my nibblings. A little
I don't
trauma is
think
good.
their mothers would appreciate this.
It's fine. It's fine. I showed my little cousin Return to Oz. She's okay. No, this would stop me from showing a kid. But it depends on the kid.
Yeah, yeah, it would depend on the kid.
Yeah. If it's a really sensitive kid, then not. That or just awkwardly skip Duchess scene. Just be like, we don't need to, nothing happened. She just went into a void after she went, skip to the Cheshire Cat. She went to a void.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could actually make a cut because it's all random anyways.
Yeah.
You could pretty easily cut out that scene.
It doesn't really have any bearing on the story. And the
No.
Duchess is already in the prologue, so when you see her later, it's not like
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, yeah, she's in this.
And I think she's kind of cleaned up in the final
She
scenes.
is. Yeah. Well, I
She's
mean,
not covered in blood.
even this scene, like she takes off the apron at some point. I guess it would be a pin for her because it's pinned to her front. But yeah, this is also like the only Duchess I could think of who like actually like tries to strangle somebody with the pork sausage. Um,
I mean, there's no other Duchess making sausage, so
no, 1970. There's definitely an implication she's gonna make sausage. There's like images of a meat grinder.
oh, it's been too long since I've seen that one.
Okay, well, she's not the only one, but she's definitely the one who tries to like strangle somebody with it. Trying to think. That's probably again, it's really out of left field. The rest of the ballet isn't like this at all. But it is like a little violent.
Yeah.
Also, weird note. So when the cook is being strangled on the table, later versions they give her bloomers. Kind of odd. I guess they
Hmm.
thought seeing legs and tights was too much. I don't know.
I suppose, but everybody else is wearing tights, so
Yeah, that's what's kind of weird about it to me. Like we see the guys wearing just tights. I don't know. Maybe it's because she has a longer skirt. No idea.
I suppose probably. I
Yeah,
didn't think much of it, but I suppose some people probably would think more about it.
yeah, kind of weird. But yeah, the strangulation I think is meant so Alice could save her, and
Hmm.
then she and Alice are kind of friends, which would make more sense, I guess, later in the trial that the cook also wants to help Alice. Maybe
Hmm.
they thought she needed more motivation because she wouldn't be kind at heart. Maybe I don't know. But that's the only thing I can think of, but I have no idea why they would add that in. Other than that, yeah, I don't have anything else to say. Though I do think it is nice that the fish and frog footmen kind of stay around. It adds more frenetic energy to the scene.
Yeah, but it's also kind of weird that they're just kind of bouncing around a butcher shop. But
Yeah,
the whole
well,
scene is weird, so it just adds to the
they
weirdness.
work there.
They must be in more of in administrative roles since they're not covered in blood.
Well, they're more front of house roles. Yeah,
Yes. You also do get a glimpse of the Cheshire Cat in this scene, which it's
yeah,
just his head, and I loved that shot of the thing coming in and held by the guy in a completely black suit. He didn't blend into the background at all, but I liked that.
yeah. But it's really not distracting at all when you're watching it like live or
No,
live.
I like
Yeah,
stuff like that. Like I have
yeah,
no problem seeing the puppeteers.
yeah.
I know for some people that breaks the magic, but I think it's just cool.
No, I'm kind of like the puppeteering is so much fun,
Hmm.
that it really doesn't matter. I'd rather have anything like that at all than not.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just kind of get that hint of him. So like I didn't think like the first time I watched that, I didn't think very much of it. I just went, oh, that's just how they're doing it in this
Hmm.
scene. I didn't assume that he would, be a big, huge puppet later. Um,
I don't think I did either. I just thought it was cool that he had the head there. And then when he comes back later as the giant puppet, I was like, okay, this is really cool.
I think if only my only thought I think was I thought it was odd it was just the head because in the book it is his full body.
Hmm.
But if I just figured for whatever reason on stage they just wanted his head for some reason. But it definitely kind of adds to like the discombobulated nature of this Cheshire Cat. Like he doesn't need
Yeah.
to be connected to anything, which you see in the book too. It's just it really takes it full circle in this adaptation.
Hmm.
Um, and then we might as well mention the cat is like the only tennial thing in this whole ballet.
Yeah.
And the designer Bob Crowley said it was for a reason. It was like purposeful. He wanted to bring something from the book in the original tennial illustrations. I guess maybe to get the feeling that Alice might be reading a tennial version of the book at the end. But he just wanted one thing and he decided it should be the cat. And I
Hmm.
think out of everything, yeah, the cat was the best choice for like the one tennial illustration.
Yeah.
And it looks, I guess we're moving on to the Cheshire Cat general. Absolutely gorgeous. I love the Cheshire Cat sequence.
Hmm.
It's such a big wow factor.
Yeah. And having all the body parts done by different dancers or puppeteers,
Yeah.
however you want to think of them, just adds to the weirdness of the character because he's like sometimes he's a full cat, sometimes he's floating body parts. They kind of form and reform and sometimes sort of walk. It's just so cool looking.
I love I love a lot of parts, but I love like when he sneezes from Pepper off of Alice's skirt and he's just like kind of falls apart. It's so much fun. I also love when Alice like jumps through him like a ghost. It's a really fun cat. I love this cat so much.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite cats.
And the music is so eerie too. It's like a ghost cat. It's fun. I really like it.
Yeah.
Definitely the best Cheshire Cat on stage. I'll just say it, hands down.
Of the ones that I've seen, definitely, because a lot of times they'll do it just as a person in a cat suit,
Yeah,
and this just looks so much better as this giant puppet thing.
yeah. I mean, I will say like he doesn't talk, obviously, so you don't get the great lines.
Hmm.
But I feel like in a ballet where there isn't talking,
Yeah.
this is a really good substitute.
Yes.
So yeah, great idea. I really am happy with it. So the tea party, right? I love this scene so much.
I like that the Mad Hatter's the tap dancer.
Yeah, it's so much fun and it's really, really good tap. And the
Hmm.
way it kind of adds to like the craziness of the scene as well, like as a sense of time because obviously tap dancing is very focused on timing.
Yeah.
Um, but it kind of sounds like a clock almost at some points, which is very interesting because Hatter and his friends are kind of frozen in time, right?
Hmm.
And I love the set of this one as well with the little puppet theater that's the tea table as well. But it's kind of fascinating, right? So the Hatter in the prologue was the magician,
Hmm.
and so his tea table is basically for his own ego, right? Just like I'm great, look at me, I have a stage all to myself. And again, going for like the miniature, like we're miniature, so we got the puppet theater tea table. I think one of the chairs has like giant spoons on it. The big teapot,
Hmm.
the little desserts that they jump off of, and the big butterfly on top of the puppet theater. It's just all gorgeous. I think the teapot is fun too, because they stuffed the dormouse into it. I also think the March Hare is he's very cute in this. He doesn't do very much, but he's very cute.
I liked that they had the dormouse actually there doing things. You don't always get a substantial dormouse.
Hmm.
And of course, the stuffing him into the teapot, because not a whole lot of versions do that. It always just reminds me of the one, I think it's 1910, where they're kids. That's probably my favorite, stuffing the dormouse in the teapot scene.
Yeah. There's this really cool dance move they do in this one where Alice kind of like jumps onto them for support and she's like frozen like almost like a mid-run jump and they move forward with her, and the Hatter's tapping, and the Dormouse is like swinging its tail like clock arms. It's
Hmm.
very neat. Yeah, like frozen in time. I think that's meant to be the implication. I don't know, but just honestly, all the dancing in this sequence is fantastic.
Yeah. Well, after this, it slows down a little bit. This is probably my least favorite part of the movie
Yeah,
once she leaves the Mad Tea Party.
I actually wrote that caterpillar. Like it's clever enough, but this is all probably my least favorite sequence of the performance. Because then, right, you get this long sequence of, I think it's meant to be Alice recounting her adventures so far, but I just kind of glaze out. I really don't like it.
I think part of it is the fact that it has the "Who are you?" floating above her, and I was like, okay, now we're getting the caterpillar, and then the caterpillar doesn't show up, and he doesn't show up, and he doesn't show up, and she's just alone, and then her sisters briefly show up. It just seems like it's a lot of dancing for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's meant to be that she's telling him what's going on, because she's repeating a lot of dance moves throughout the performance.
Oh,
But again,
maybe.
I haven't really like analyzed it because I just kind of glaze over. I really don't like the sequence.
Well, most of this happens before the caterpillar even shows its face, so I didn't
Yeah,
even think of it being her recounting her adventures to him. I just thought she was dancing by herself for no reason.
yeah. But again, I'm not a ballet fan, so I don't know. Anyway, like I mean, I'm casual. So I don't know if this is like a tradition or something, or if it's meant,
It
if
could
it
be.
has some kind of importance to the ballet's storytelling. I have no idea. I just don't like it.
Hmm.
I skip this always.
The caterpillar scene was a lot shorter than I expected it to be.
Oh yeah, I think it's okay length for what they do.
Yeah, it also wasn't what I was expecting because, like, you have the caterpillar like show up in the quote unquote real world at the beginning, and
Mm,
I was expecting that they were going to use that character, but then have a tail of some kind. And in my head, I was thinking of what, like his very final shot as the caterpillar in this scene with the dancers like underneath the blanket behind him, like a caterpillar tail. I expected that that was how the caterpillar was just going to be,
mm.
like the whole thing, but then he wasn't. And also, I thought it was funny. I told Sarah, of all the characters that they could have made hot, the caterpillar was the one I would have least expected.
Yeah, I would have never in a million years expected the caterpillar to be hot. I could see why they did it this way. I feel like the caterpillar probably could have been interesting in the sense of you probably could have like made it of several dancers at a time.
Hmm.
But I could see why they did it this way. Like they wanted to have a singular role. It's okay.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I just was expecting something
Yeah.
really more interesting, more grand, like having a big tail made of many dancers. I thought that would have been so cool.
Yeah, like the wow factor of this sequence is the ending where he comes out with all the ladies behind him as part of
Hmm.
the caterpillar tale. And part of the wow factor is like there's so many of them, and the ballet the point shoes they use for that are actually really really beautiful. They have like these crystals on them. They only use them for that short time,
Hmm.
and it's like I don't know. It's pretty short though, so there's not that much wow factor to me.
Yeah.
I do. I appreciate kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but Victorians were very like interested in foreign cultures like India or surrounding, that
Hmm.
surrounding area. So it's interesting that they kind of bring this into the ballet. It's interesting that they kind of bring this in with the caterpillar specifically.
Yeah. I kind of like when he first showed up at the beginning, like my immediate thought was Indian because like that's been done before. But
Yeah.
then I was watching this scene, I was like, this is more Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
Because like the his backup dancers, whatever you want to call them, are belly dancers. And like the vibe, it was like maybe like I'm not an expert, but it kind of reminded me of like some like Persian, Iranian art that I've seen. So I don't know the exact culture they were going for, but I thought it was interesting that they went in that direction.
Yeah, my gripe with this, to be honest, is I don't really know what culture they're supposed to be emulating, but I don't know if that's just me being ignorant or they're not doing a good job of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not an expert. It reminded me of some like there's a restaurant that Sarah and I have gone to in Omaha called Shaikana, which has it's kind of a mixture of a few different Middle Eastern cultures, and some of the art they have there kind of gave me the same vibe as the mushroom and some of the
Hmm.
different pieces in this scene.
Hmm. Speaking of the mushroom, I will say the parasol as the mushroom is very clever.
Mm,
But yeah, I just don't care that much for the caterpillar sequence. It gets a C.
that's probably fair. I was
Yeah,
expecting more from it, and like it was interesting, but it wasn't one of my favorite parts.
yeah. And the cat Eric Underwood, who's the caterpillar, he's very talented, obviously. But yeah, it's not for me. And then I really dislike that. Um, I know it's kind of like accurate because Alice does eat from the mushroom. However, I kind of dislike that they apply a psychedelic effect from it. I know this is just me kind of being a little too nitpicky. I just don't like it. I also think it's kind of weird that it immediately gets her into the garden,
I don't think I even picked up on that.
the psychedelic effect or the garden part.
The psychedelic. I didn't realize that that was what the transition to the garden was supposed to be.
Oh yeah, she's like tripping out, kind of getting dizzy, and the projections are altering in a psychedelic way in the hollow doors.
Yeah, it didn't even cross my mind that it was supposed to be psychedelic. Just,
Yeah,
it was just another weird Wonderland thing.
it's such a brief moment that it kind of just it's just a blip on the radar before you go back into it. So I think most people don't really think about it.
Mm,
But I think that's really the only storytelling reason why they have the caterpillar, and he's put at the end of the Wonderland of sequences, which is not book accurate,
hmm
but like their storytelling. So they want it so the mushroom, Alice doesn't grow or shrink anywhere else except for the hollow doors and at the end of the caterpillar sequence for a reason because they want it to be here. So it gets her into the garden. That's my gripe with the sequence. For the most part, it's just pretty okay. And at the end, just like drugs and I'm like, ugh.
Well, after that, I really did like the scene with the flowers, mostly because of the costumes. I thought the costumes were really cool.
Oh, the costumes are gorgeous for the flowers.
I really liked the jackets on all the guys, like how they were like pure white, but then they had like a transition with the gradient down toward the bottom
That was fun.
to match the flower they were dancing with and their tights.
Yeah, they're very nice costumes. I like them. I will say the garden sequence. I didn't mention earlier, but it is one of the ones that gets a little bit long for me.
It does, but I didn't mind it as much as I did like when Alice is alone because
Yeah,
there's so many dancers that it makes it more interesting.
yeah, you're able to like look at the different flowers and appreciate the colors of it.
Yeah.
Alice also gets kind of a garden exclusive headband. I think it would be cute if she kept the floral headband for the rest of the show, but she doesn't. So it's a cute sequence. I don't know if there's that much to talk about it, but it's cute.
Probably not. It's just to me, I liked looking at it because of the costumes.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's supposed to be kind of inspired by like big show productions or like Hollywood.
That makes sense.
Yeah, kind of like a Hollywood musical kind of thing. It's a
Yeah.
big number. But I might be misquoting them, but I think that's what they said it was inspired by. And it's okay, so she's finally in the garden. She's found her boyfriend, and you get that really cool interval transition with like the big axe coming from the ceiling.
Yes, I really liked that.
Yeah, that was really really nice. But also when they make it three acts, the first act transition, so it's right after the Duchess scene, and then they have that stupid new scene, and then it ends where they for some reason, oh yeah, for some reason Jack and Rabbit both agree to blindfold Alice, and it ends on her being blindfolded, not knowing where she is. And it's like such a clumsy transition to the first interval. And I'm like, what are you doing? This, like the original intermission one, this one is so smooth and crisp. And the first new one is so clumsy. Like, if you're gonna do that, at least make it better.
Mm.
And then they keep the third act transition from act two to act three. They keep it at this big act, which is good. And then we start up with the Queen of Hearts' sequence. All of that is all the last act is essentially the Queen of Hearts and croquet and the trial.
Yeah.
The flower painting is done very well. To be honest, I'm going to say I hate their costumes. I hate the red green um, mirror image kind of thing going on. I don't like it, but I think the way they do the roses is pretty nice.
I think it probably looks better when you're out in the audience rather
Yeah,
than the close-ups because it's very easy to see the flowers flipping around when you're doing a close-up on them painting them.
yeah, but I don't know. I kind of like it. But yeah, you're right. It probably does look better from the audience. And then they have that moment where the white rabbit shows up and the roses turn white. It's a bit fun.
I really liked Jack's costume, mainly because of the shade of red that they used. I don't know why. There's just something about his particular red costume that I don't know. I really liked that color. Like it's pretty much the same color all over the place, but I think it's a combination of the fabric. There's just something about his red costume that stood out to me.
Maybe it's because it was also contrasted with the white.
Could be.
Yeah.
But all the red did look very good in this.
Mm.
But just the fabric, I think, because the queen is in red too, but like half the time it's a big plastic shell.
Yeah.
I didn't think that that looked the greatest. I was glad when she got out of that thing.
I think it was fun.
I
You
did like
know,
that when it
yeah.
opened up, the king was inside like a weird little Polly Pocket. That made me laugh.
Yeah. Speaking of, I love the Queen's tutu. It's so gorgeous. Just like the fabrics and how it flutters when she
Mm.
dances. Very pretty.
I like how she's kind of a goof.
Yeah.
Like when you think of characters in Alice in Wonderland, to me, the queen is not usually goofy. She's supposed to be more menacing.
Hmm.
But I think that just comes down to I've seen more menacing versions with her like that. But I liked that this one was like kind of equally goofy and menacing.
I agree, actually.
Like a lot of her dancing was very goofy.
Yeah, it's funny because, she is goofy, but she still manages to be pretty scary. It's a good balance.
Yeah.
Because you notice in this version, there's no pardoning. Or well, actually, now I'm thinking, wait, does the king go around the croquet like pardoning people? I didn't notice if he does.
I'm
I
not
have to look at it
sure.
again.
It
Yeah,
is kind of hard to tell since it is silent,
yeah.
no dialogue.
Well, yeah, it's silent, and there's a lot going on in a lot of scenes,
Yes.
especially this act. You get a lot of like big crowd scenes.
Yeah. Well, like I said, like I did not catch at first that there was something going on with the cook and the executioner. Sarah
Yeah,
pointed it out, and then we had to rewind it and see, oh yeah, they're behind that tree making out.
yeah. Did you notice the trees are people?
Yes, I did. Sarah didn't catch that right away. I said something about being the person inside the tree, and she's like, oh, yeah, I guess there would be people in there.
Yeah, I know the first time I watched it, I just assumed that they were like fake trees on tracks. I'd be a tree.
That would be the easiest part.
I know. I can't, I can't really dance ballet anymore. Unless I'm one of those weird car ladies who like are kind of dancers but also not. I could be that too, I guess. But I'd rather be a tree.
Yeah, then you wouldn't have to wear out your toes trying to dance on your
Yeah.
tiptoes.
No, there's like these card lady dancers, but they don't have point shoes. They're in heels. You actually
Are
see
they the
that in
ones that are
ballet.
in like bell bottoms?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what they're meant to be, to be honest. It's kind of weird.
There was like a bunch of different kinds of card people.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what was up with that. There wasn't one consistent card design. It was like they had a few ideas for cards and were like, let's do them all.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the differences are. Maybe they're meant to be like the other kings and queens, or I don't know. I have no idea. Or knaves? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't deeply analyzed that part.
No, me neither. I didn't think too much of it. I just thought it was interesting that they had several different card designs.
Yeah, but the bell bottom ones are honestly my least favorite of them all. I just don't like bell bottoms like that.
I didn't really rank them. They were the ones that stood out to me the most just because it was like they felt the most out of place. I
Yeah,
thought they looked interesting, but like I didn't have any strong feelings one way or the other.
yeah. I think my favorite were the tutu ones. You know, when they
Yes.
bend over and you see like this the shape.
Yes, those were my favorite. And they had the little
Yeah,
headbands with the numbers on them.
yeah. Actually the whole kind of March of their version of March of the Cards was
Yeah.
really fun. I liked
Yeah,
it.
that was my favorite scene in all of these card scenes.
Honestly, their dance feels like the most menacing of all. Like even more than the Queen. It's very kind of
Kind of.
it feels kind of impersonal and like off balance in a way. Just like robots, like scary robots. I don't know, like they're not people. I like it. It's a good dance. It's very well done, but they're a bit scary.
I don't think I thought of them as scary, but they are the most, I don't know. There is
I
something
think
about them that's different than all the others, but that is why I liked them more.
part of it, I think, is the music because it's very suspenseful just before the trial.
Yeah.
But cutting back a little bit, anything else you want to say about like oh, I do actually. So when the queen leaves her shell and the king says she's beautiful and dance and the whole thing with the other cards trying to appease her dancing with the tarts. So this is the tart Adagio and it's actually a parody of the Rose Adagio from the Sleeping Beauty ballet,
Hmm.
which you know only nerds really care about, but it's a hilarious sequence even if you don't know about it. You don't really need to know about it. But like it's particularly very funny if you are a ballet fan and you know what they're referencing. The Rose Adagio is very like hard to do because there's several moments when you're on tiptoe with no support. Because I don't know if you noticed, like they would like go over very briefly, and it's very, very impressive to do. And that was the whole point of the Rose Adagio. So like Aurora is getting like roses from her suitors, and this she's getting tarts from not her suitors, her servants who are trying to appease her. And to be honest, I think it's kind of it might technically be more impressive because of like all the pratfalls and
Hmm.
just the chaos is impressive to me. It's very well done,
Yeah.
and all the body language she has too, and when she like
Yes.
shuffles over on the ground. It's a fun sequence. So I think it's fun that it's meant to be a parody. Anything to say about the croquet? We did kind of touch on it already.
Well, the main thing that I want to make sure to mention from that scene is the cat.
Oh yeah,
Because you have the big crowd scene, and for a minute I was like, what on earth is going on behind this crowd? And then all the pieces came together, and I was like, that's the cat.
yeah, it's very fun.
And it was the face of the cat. They did the a cat can look at a king scene, but the cat is giant.
Yeah,
And I thought that looked so cool.
yeah, and because in the book it's he seems to appear piece by piece, and you don't really see that in adaptations. Maybe
No.
his smile might come first or something.
Hmm.
But yeah, I like that they do that with this one, and his ears come like last, which is good. Like kind of a good reference to the book again, because like his ears haven't shown up, so Alice like waited to talk to him. Get a little lovers tryst, I suppose, as well in this sequence with Alice and Jack sneaking off to be together.
And also the cook and the executioner.
Yeah, this is just that area of the garden. Oh, I'd be remiss to forget to mention the Duchess and the Queen are hilarious together.
Hmm.
Just trying to just oh, I'm so good at croquet. It's like, well, I'm gonna cheat bigger arches. It's a fun sequence. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah. Oh, also, I wanted to make sure to mention the guards because when the guards showed up, I was like, they look like the Praetorian guards from Star Wars.
I wouldn't know them.
They're Palpatine's, and then later on Snoke's guards who dress completely in red, but almost that exact shade of red.
Oh, that's
Like you
fun.
never see their faces. They kind of look like these card guards.
Huh.
I'll send you a link.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Very similar shade of red as well,
Yeah,
if not just the same shade.
yeah. As soon as I saw the Queen's guards, I was like, oh, they look like they're from Star Wars.
I guess, it's kind of hard to come up with the original look for armor. So the trail scene, I just to start with, I really like the cards design set, especially later when, it all falls apart and the way they collapse is a lot of fun.
Hmm.
But also so the courtroom is kind of like implied to be made out of the cards, which has disturbing implications for the universe. Um, but I'm also joking. But it's funny because we see like in the book, the courtroom is never mentioned to be made out of cards, but we see this kind of design pop up again and again, like we saw in 1999,
Hmm.
and I think it's also done in the 1970 French Alice too.
I feel like it's been in even more than that. Was it the 1949 French one? Wasn't there
No,
cards in the on the walls? Or am I
no,
mixing up two different versions?
not that one.
Okay.
I can't remember like the black and white TV productions off the top of my head, so no idea.
A lot of these, the longer away it gets that I've seen them, the more they become jumbled in my memory. I've
Yeah,
seen so many Alice's at this point, I sometimes can't remember which part came from which one.
yeah, I don't remember anything in the Hanna-Barbera one, but I might be wrong. No, I can't remember another card courtroom. Well, if anyone remembers, feel free to chime in the comments, I suppose. Anyway, and I like that the rabbit gets the red and white costume. That's fun.
I think my favorite part of this scene was when the Mad Hatter is giving his testimony, which is basically him doing a tap dance. The rabbit is typing everything up like he's an actual stenographer transcribing his witness.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's also kind of fun because could interpret the tapping as him typing. But anyway, in general, this whole sequence is a lot of fun. So you have the joke when all the jury is trying to go into the bigger box, but it turns out that's the defendant stand, and they have to go and stand in the smaller box. There's this point when the caterpillar's giving testimony, I guess, and everyone has the hots for him. They're just, oh, he's so hot. Yeah, so I don't know. In general, the scene is kind of complete chaos, especially when they are all dancing together, supposedly giving out their own points testimony, like even like pointing fingers at each other before all deciding, oh wait, Jack's on trial, point him at him. Just um, it's a lot of chaos.
Hmm.
But one thing I do find kind of interesting to see too is like the sense of community kind of comes across here, and maybe it's the performers because they perform with each other so much. Because not just on this production, but they work with each other on other productions as well. And it's fun. You can watch the scene different times and notice. You could like each time you watch it, like focus on a different performer, and
Hmm.
you'll notice like new things.
Yeah.
They really think about like what their characters would be doing and what they'd be focusing on. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think all the big crowd scenes are like that. There's
Yeah,
just so much going on.
yeah, you get that in a lot of big crowd scenes. I just feel like it really like comes to the spotlight here.
Hmm.
But yeah, definitely all the crowd scenes you could really do this with and just be like, oh, I never noticed that, the white rabbit's fanning himself or something because he's hot. And well, actually, they all kind of act like they're a little actually warm, like it's warm in the courtroom.
It probably is.
Yeah, it probably would be. They're in a card house. Um, and then you get the Queen of Hearts dancing with the executioner and then his blade. Just I'm nuts. I want to see blood.
I like the scene where she like grabs his axe and then leaps off his throne, but like she's being carried down, like instead of like actually jumping off of this high level,
Yeah,
like the people in the crowd have to like carry her down. But I loved how smooth that motion was.
yeah, it's very smooth. That said, the scene kind of gets a B for me. It's not one of my favorite sequences, like scenes in the ballet. And part of that is because I find the part with like Jack and Alice dancing for a really long time to be really boring. And I
Hmm.
I know that's a really like traditional. ballet thing is, long dances with the romantic leads because it's meant to be very impressive dancing. And
Hmm.
I'm sure it is, but it just gets kind of long,
Yeah.
especially because they're repeating a lot of the same dance moves too.
Hmm.
And again, I know that's supposed to be like motifs, but yeah, I started to kind of like blank over it. Like the only redeeming factor for me is like trying to watch the background characters and they're reacting to it. Hatter and Hare are adorable. They're like leaning on each other, going, "Oh, how cute!" you know. So it's like that's the only redeeming factor for me. And then they end the dance moving their arms and legs in the shape of a heart together. That's cute. But other than that, I'm just kind of eh. And I think it's cute that the Wonderland characters kind of like simultaneously agree, like, we have to save them because they love each other. But they're all kind of like working together to try to get the queen off their track. And that's cute. And then I like the chaos as the dream starts to end and it all falls apart. I like that.
Is she supposed to have died when she falls off of the throne?
I actually don't think she dies. I think it just the card house falls apart when she falls off is how I interpret it.
Okay. I didn't know if they were going for her subjects revolted and caused her death or what.
No, I don't think so. That'd be sad for the king. He finally got to kiss her. Oh, that was another like little theme throughout. So like in the prologue, Mr. Little tries to kiss Mrs. Little, and she like rejects him or like kind of dismisses him. And then the king tries to kiss the queen, and she acts repulsed. Actually, I think she's aromantic. Uh, and then he finally kissed her here, and it served as a distraction for Alice and the name to get away. But yes, that'd be a bit sad for him because he seems to actually care for her. She only cares for the blade. But anyway, so the ending epilogue, I guess. So it is kind of nice. So the screen goes down, and you're kind of going back up the rabbit hole, and it kind of transforms to like it looks like branches, and the leaves are falling down. In the reference to the leaves were the cards when they fell on Alice's face in the dream.
Hmm.
And then she wakes up in what is presumably actually not the Deanery Garden because you're not actually allowed in there in real life. Yeah, I remember the first time I saw this, I was like, "What? What? It was a
Yeah,
dream?
when
What?"
they came out, I was like, "Wait, are they in modern clothes? And is that a radio on the ground?" It's like, what's
Yeah,
happening here?
it is kind of weird, but whatever. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bizarre choices in this, so this is one of the least ones. So,
Yeah, I will say I think this is one thing that is kind of detrimental to it being a ballet is that when you're watching this, you're taking it all very seriously, or I mean, you're suspending your disbelief that it is actually quote unquote Alice Little that she's represented in the beginning, and then she goes to Wonderland, yada yada, and then this ending kind of like throws you off, and I think it's meant like part two. I think it's meant to be a surprise,
mhm.
and then later you can be like, oh yeah, it looked like a book, but I feel like it takes a lot longer for that to even like really kick in at the end for you to realize that's what's going on.
Well, I didn't realize until you pointed it out.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
was just kind of confused.
Yeah, a lot of people don't.
Yeah, because when I was on IMDb, I scrolled down to see like some reviews, and I saw people upset about the ending, like upset and or confused. Like, why
Yeah.
would they do this?
I actually, it's funny. Once I realized what it was, I actually liked the ending.
I mean, it helps make it make sense.
Yeah, and I think it gives it a good reason to kind of incorporate real life, like real history, but also kind of like, however, this is a dream and it's being interpreted by the dreamer, so we don't have to be 100% accurate.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. But it is confusing to a first time viewer who doesn't know what's going on. And
Hmm.
maybe if this was like a film version or something, or a play, it would be more digestible. But because it's
Yeah.
ballet and there's no talking, it is a bit jarring.
Yeah.
I will say Alice has a really, really cute bow modern day, so good for her. Um, and I think it's also cute that modern day Alice, she loves her boyfriend so much. She inserts him into the story she's reading.
I was going to say Bow Bow or Bow Beau.
Yeah. Bo. I like both. Um, but to be honest, I didn't mention earlier. I didn't really mention this earlier, but I don't really like the Name of Hearts. I'd say that's the one downside of this recording. It's Sergey Luni? I don't know how to say his last name, but he feels very blank to me. He's not a very good character actor, or dancer, I mean. So like Alice is really into him, but he's kind of, hello, yeah, you're here.
It felt kind of on purpose, like he was supposed to be like the semi-vapid hot guy.
Maybe, but when you watch like the one after him, because eventually Sergei moved on from the Royal Ballet. To be honest, this is total speculation on my part, but I think he was kind of checked out of the Royal Ballet by the time this ballet happened.
Mm.
Um, but the next one, Federico Bonelli, is so much cuter. He's like a cinnamon roll. Um, hot and but also just like he looks wholesome, like a golden retriever. And sorry, but I say this to emphasize like in later versions, I think you get a lot more out of this epilogue because they're adorable together. But in this one, it's just kind of like she's more into him, so she dreamt him, but he's just kind of like, yeah, cool, cool, babe, let's go. You know, where I feel like later verses were like, oh, that's cute that you dreamed me or something. But anyway, and I think it's also kind of fun that there's like a Lewis Carroll reincarnation character, and they're just kind of like, hey, you look like, no, that's impossible. And I think it's funny, he ends up with the Alice book and he's like starts to read it. It's like, hey, I wrote this. Like, kidding. But as a fan now, years later after I first watched it, I like the epilogue. However, I still remember how confusing it was watching it for the first time.
hmm To me, it was confusing, but it didn't make me dislike it or anything. Because, like, for the most part, I'm watching this for the dancing and the sets,
Yeah,
not for the story. Because, like, I know the story of Alice in Wonderland. So it doesn't bother me. Well, now seeing so many versions later, how many things I've seen, like, it changes to the story don't usually bother me unless they're very egregious.
yeah,
And this just seemed like somebody had an interesting choice and went with it. And since I'm watching this more for the creativity around the stage production of this, it didn't bother me.
yeah. I've seen a lot of choices in Alice. It doesn't usually phase me. It has to be really really bad for me to even you know for a change like this to bother me.
hmm
If anything, I feel like it's kind of clever.
I mean, it's something we haven't seen before, so yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, I kind of like it also because I think modern day Alice is a fan. I mean, she literally went to Christchurch to read Alice in Wonderland and fall asleep.
Yeah.
Her, yeah, and her boyfriend's just like, okay, fine, I'll just listen to tunes. Actually, I kind of did that when I went to Christchurch, not in the Deanery Garden, but in the meadow. I took a little nap, and I was just like, you do whatever you want to do, boyfriend. I want to take a nap. But I didn't read the book and have an amazing dream. That would have been great. So I don't know. I think it's a fun epilogue, I guess. I also do like the sign that has like the Mad Hatter illustration.
Yeah.
Like it's a tea shop. Christchurch should think about adding a tea shop.
I mean, it seems like a natural fit.
It does, but they're all like, but we're an actual university. We don't have time for this. And yeah, so that's how it ends. And I think it's fine.
Yeah, it's an interesting ending. It makes it stand out from other versions. But like I said, I wasn't watching it for the story so much as just seeing how they interpreted all the different scenes. And as far as that, I thought this was a really creative version. I really liked it.
Yeah, I love this version. It focus, obviously, if you ask me, is it a good adaptation of the book? I would say it is relatively pretty faithful. However, if someone's like, if you could watch one adaptation, like recommend one adaptation to someone, this probably is not the one I would pick because obviously you're missing the wordplay,
Hmm.
which is such a huge part of Alice. And I know some people feel like if you don't have wordplay at all, you're not even adapting Alice. Like, what are you doing? But I feel like Alice has a lot of strong visual themes, and this one really captures on it.
Yeah.
And I think it does it really, really well. So I would say this is probably my favorite stage Alice. So yeah, it's a good one. If you haven't seen it yet and you've listened to us spoil it all, you should still see it. And um, yeah, and might recommend to your friends. I would say stick with the 2011 recording, which is the most accessible one. Because some of the later recordings, some of the effects don't go right. I will say, if you're a big fan, watching the later recordings is fun because they will focus on like detail shots. So you get to see things that you couldn't see before. There's more material for you to see as well, and different
Hmm.
like performers as well, and how they do the characters. There's a lot of content out there if you like this ballet. And your next stage assignment homework is Alice at the Fountains, Jonathan.
Yeah, we'll have to do that one too.
Yeah.
There's still so many more Alice's out there. I was just thinking the other day, I've been doing this for so many years now, and I still don't feel like I'm anywhere near the end of it.
I still have not seen every Alice, and part of that is just stubbornness, because there are some I really just don't can't be bothered to watch, to be honest. Um, I think I forced myself to watch the Young Suk Jin opera, but that one took a really long time for me to actually watch, and I think I only watched it because it was part of a streaming thing. But I haven't watched like the 2008 Westergaard version opera because I don't like opera. So it's
I
like,
I've kind of been
yeah.
wanting to do the operas at some point. Maybe it would be maybe that would be something we could do and just compare two versions, not dedicate a whole episode to just one opera.
Yeah, I mean, Young Suk Jin, you might be like I have a hard time imagining you'll be able to do a whole episode for Westergaard. But Young Suk Jin, you probably could.
Just the costumes look so
Yeah. Well, the staging is very unique. However, the editing, like the cinematography on Young Suk Jin, is awful. It's some of the worst editing I've
hmm,
ever seen for a stage performance. It is actually it makes you sick. It can
hmm.
make you sick. I find it way, some people think the 1970 French version is, I've somehow, for some reason, I brought this up a lot this time, but a lot of people feel sick from watching that with the bright colors and it's moving. And for me, it's Young Suk Shin. That's the one that makes me feel sick. It feels like you're on like a boat in the sea. Like the theater is a water tank and you're just on a raft holding on. It's awful.
Uh,
But anyway, stage version. Have you watched the flamenco one yet? Either the Russian one?
I don't think so.
Even though it's in Russian, the staging is really, really good. You should watch that one at some point too.
Yeah.
But I recommend Alice at the Palace first. But yeah, so stage Alice is always very interesting to see how they interpret the story on stage.
Yeah, I like seeing how they do something when they don't have like CGI to fall back on. Like they have to use physical things. I feel like you have to be so much more creative with something like this.
Yeah, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But this one they had even more of a setback because they can, ballet doesn't speak.
Mm, yeah.
But I think they did a really, really good job.
Yeah, because once you get into the story, you don't really even think about the fact that nobody's speaking. At least I didn't.
Yeah. And I heard a lot of people who like Alice who watch this and love it, and but they put it off because they're not into ballet, and you really forget you're even watching a ballet.
Hmm. Yeah, there's so much going on that ballet is just one part of it.
Yeah, I agree. Like if you don't like the ballet itself, you can look at the sets,
Yeah.
you could look at the costumes, the hair, the wigs, the makeup.
Hmm.
You could focus on the acting rather than the actual dancing.
Yeah.
There's different things for you here. The music, which we didn't. That's one thing we didn't touch on. The music is really, really good.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. I feel like it does a really good job to bring the story to life.
Hmm.
Trying to think if I have any favorite music. Well, obviously, I love the Tea Party music, especially because it brings the tap dancing into a focus. I love the music with the Cheshire Cat. It's like da, 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 like that one.
Hmm.
I like the Caucus Race music. I think those are my three favorites.
The caucus race is the one that comes to mind first, but I'm not sure if it's because of the music or because of the dancing. Maybe
It
both.
could be both.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much to really enjoy with this. I would say even if you're not a ballet fan, you would find something in here to like.
Highly recommend it. Top three for me.
Yeah. I haven't made any definite ranking of all the Alices I like, but this one is
Ooh, maybe
definitely
that's
near the
an
top.
idea for a video one day ranking.
I have thought that. Like it's a long time ago, I said something to Sarah about ranking all the Alices that we've watched, but now it's like there's so many. We'd have to do like top 10. I mean, if we wanted to, we could rank all of them, but that might take a day.
I think you would have to do some disqualifiers, yeah.
Yeah.
But I would love to be part of a ranking. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah. We should do that at some point.
Yes, we should.
I guess until the next episode, whether it's a ranking or Alice at the Palace or any of the other random ones that we've talked about doing, we will see you next time. But until then, do you want to let people know where they can find you if they want to find more of your stuff?
Sure. So I'm Jenna, or still she haunts me Phantomwise. You can find me as Phantomwise on YouTube, and also love Gift of a Fairy Tale on YouTube as well.
Okay, well, we will see you next time.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Every Version Ever. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow my co-hosts as well. My link tree and all of our links will be in the description below. If you want more of my content, all my podcasts are available on YouTube as well as most podcast platforms. If you enjoyed this show, check out one of the other podcasts or check out my Patreon for bonus and extended episodes you won't find anywhere else. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening and we'll see you next time.
Come along and pass through the looking glass into Wonderland.